Hello, this is a video presentation of Project Deliverable for Educational Technology Development Track. My name is Nick Jenkins. I'm making a language learning tool for beginner Japanese students called Otsukare. So just an overview of what the purpose is of this, I'm going to give you exposure to my project and give you the information necessary to give feedback. And the content of the video is to introduce the project at a high level, give you an idea of the project status. I'll request some particular areas of feedback once you have an idea of what the project's about and how it's going, and then launch into a demonstration of the key features so far. So from the proposal I submitted earlier, this is some of the history of the project. So the tool's intended to be a supplement for Duolingo, which is a popular language learning app. I want this tool to be an online platform, and I want it to really address some of the weaker sides of Duolingo whilst retaining some of the positives. So Duolingo's really good at sort of gamifying language learning and helping learn vocabulary. On the negative side, it's not that great at teaching like good conversation, and that's something that's going to be quite challenging. So some elements that Duolingo doesn't do well is such things like helping people learn how to naturally delay conversations, so saying ums and ahs, asking people to repeat themselves, using simplified language. So if you don't know the name of kettle, you might say hot and water and thin, maybe. Conversational settings, so how to make small talk, and things like handling money, following directions, and working with dates and times. The other one that I'd like to really implement this project is something which is a bit more speech and comprehension driven, because ultimately the goal of learning language is to have great conversations with people. So there's a few technologies I'd like to include in the platform, including use of microphone and speaker, speech to text, text translation, text similarity engines, and chatbot technology, even if that's just coming up with simple probes and very script based. So as I talked about in the proposal, this deliverable is supposed to be about giving demonstrations of transcribing text-to-speech, audio recording and playback, and showcase some initial content as well as a basic quiz. This is the status of the project with some indications of how it's all going on the left, colorized. So I've actually kind of left ahead of the project in some ways, but also a little bit behind in some others. My approach to the sort of timelines and the elements of the project has been, I wanted to address a lot of the unknowns. So I want to get quite comfortable with all the sort of small various aspects, and once I've got a good grasp of how to kind of complete them, then move on to other unknowns. And for me, one of the biggest unknowns of the project was how to deploy a website. It's something very new to me, but I'm happy to report that it's online now, and it has a cool little user login and registration features, and it has like a database set up as well. So because those features I felt were so critical to the success and also quite unknown, I kind of leapt ahead in that regard as well. What I'm also starting to find though is that some of the other unknowns, such as the designing the game and implementing the game elements and the learning algorithms, these are all very much tasks highly associated with setting up the database. So I very much underestimated the amount of time required for setting up the database, which is progressing but not complete. But there is plenty of time. As far as some of these technologies, such as audio recording, transcribing, text-to-speech, I have working prototypes of each of those, which I'll show, but they're very much unrelated at this stage to the rest of the project in terms of interaction with game elements, database, and the website. So they're sort of knowns at this stage, but they're not implemented, if that makes sense. So some areas I could use some feedback on, but also feel free to just give thoughts on the project overall. So you can go ahead and sign up at the website. I feel that user and database management is going to be critical element of the application. I want people to have a very personalized experience when learning, and to have your learning information saved so that you're able to more effectively kind of learn and level up through the game, for example. So if you go ahead and sign up, you'll be able to just check out the login process, make sure it's all secure and working, and have a more customized experience eventually. Reading up on the game story and the how to play pages of the sites, I've kind of given some thought about how I want the game to be designed and the sort of tasks that you'll do. Just want to make sure it makes sense and that the rewards and the pathways are relatively clear. And go ahead and have a trial of the Learn Kana page. It's a very basic quiz. It will just show you if it's correct or not, but I'm going to show you in a bit more detail with the demonstration why that's going to be quite a cool feature. So moving on to the demonstration, which is the last part of this presentation before we go ahead and use the site. First off, Otsukare is live. So there's a web page for it, otsukare.org. This is the background story, and this is talking more rationally about the reasons you'd want to use this website. If you go to how to play, it will talk through a bit more about how the game elements actually work, and this is the menu for the game. This is mocked up as an example. There's a leaderboard with 2 of my dummy accounts, a login and a sign up page using lovely forms, which have validation on them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. This is my admin account. So admin has some special features here, such as add words and view words. I can delete users from this page as well. So one of the main things in the projects was creating content, and so that's tracking along quite well. I'm aiming to get somewhere around sort of 500 words or so included in this, and I think so far it's up to about sort of 300 or so. 300 to 350. I can add words here using this portal, so I put in the English, the hiragana, the kanji version, if it's available, and various tags which are going to be used later in analysis. Once that's done, it goes in the view words page. I can delete them from here. One important addition is a Romanji page. So this takes the kana here and converts it into a Romanized language equivalent, and this is going to be really useful when it comes to using the text-to-speech, speech-to-text type technologies. Okay, so that discusses the view content pages, admin area, login, and what we'll talk about next is some of the game elements, and I'll show you the Quizlet as well. So if you've signed up, you can go to the how to play page, which explains a little bit more about the point of the game. So for instance, in order to get to sort of the conversational levels and the sort of aspirations of this project, there's some basic building blocks. So it starts with learning the kana. So hiragana and katakana are 2 of the alphabets in Japanese. And using those, you're then able to progress to learning words and starting to hear and understand what they mean. And from there, you can go from not just learning words to learning useful phrases. And some of the game elements certainly start to come in here. I've used a sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs / Sims approach to some of these things. So your character has, for instance, hunger, energy levels, hygiene, and social levels. So you learn short phrases and they will help you in this sense. So for example, asking for a glass of water, asking for food, and that's the sort of way you'll meet your basic needs. And if your basic needs are met, then you'll be able to complete tasks for the bosses. So the tasks will involve more complex tasks, such as using time, directions, and handling money as well. Successfully completing tasks earns you money, gets you on the leaderboard, and yeah, learning Japanese. The kana page here is just a basic example, as I mentioned. So it just currently says if it's correct or not. But this is actually really important because the data is starting to be collected about this is quite cool. Just going to pause a sec. Okay, so what I wanted to show was the tasks table. every user has tasks which they have both completed and are pending as well. So here's an example where here's what the answer would have been, ID 88, and here are some of the dummies as well as the correct answer as well, somewhere in one of these places, and the response that was given. So this shows if it was answered correctly or incorrectly. And this is going to be great for analysis. So for instance, the answer was 14, but the response given was 45, which is incorrect. So that's going to be really useful to be able to analyze those combinations of words that you tend to mix up, kanas that you tend to mix up, because I want to be able to sort of reflect that back to the user and give them the opportunity to learn and distinguish those, not just for themselves, but also common mistakes made across the whole database as well. Given some thought to the types of tasks people might do, so here's a representation of that table as well. Involves many types of tasks with kanas, words, basic needs and tasks. It may require reading or listening to sort of input on the website in English or Japanese, and various styles of entering information back into the website. Potentially even getting towards speaking as well, which is one of the main things I'd like the website to do. So that kind of covers off the local, most of the web stuff. The last sort of thing we'll look at is some of the prototypes around the audio recording, transcribing, text-to-speech, and translation as well. So first off, I'm just going to load up some demos. So here's an example of having Japanese sort of spoken in the browser. So this is going to be useful to be able to present the user with spoken exercises and have an opportunity for comprehension. I'm exploring at the moment using some recording JavaScripts, so you can record your own audio. So this can generate WAV files. Record your own audio. So this can generate WAV files. And this can be hooked up to other things as well, such as transcription. So here's an example of a Google transcription which I've got set up based on a WAV file on the system. And yeah, so getting the credentials going with that wasn't trivial. But I'm also kind of thinking that the transcription stuff, now that that's kind of sorted, I think the translation will also be kind of straightforward as well, which is why I'm not so worried about this being behind schedule at this stage. So that provides the overview for the project, kind of where it's up to. Looking forward to seeing your feedback and signing up. So thank you for that. Cheers. Bye.